First of all, when you're a business owner, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a developer, you are inherently optimistic. So we have to stay optimistic. We have to, I said this earlier, we have to sell Denver. We can't just bemoan Denver all the time. We have to sell Denver. We just have to somehow elect and subsequently persuade our elected leadership to start thinking about incentives and not penalties. Okay, I'll give you a great example. Energize Denver, which means you're going to de-energize Denver. Okay, whenever they say something in their title, just assume it's the opposite. Okay, so what is Energize Denver? Well, Energize Denver, the intention is we have to make sure our buildings are more energy efficient, so that Denver can have its impact on the global carbon problem, right?
By a fraction of a fraction of a fraction.
But you just talked about property taxes. If you add the cost of retrofitting buildings in Denver to an already burdensome regulatory environment, you will literally make Denver unaffordable. But I understand the intention. So why not just incentivize people who choose to make their buildings more energy efficient? Deduct their property taxes. Give them a property tax abatement. Incentivize it, but don't penalize it. That's the way they have to start thinking. If I'm willing to put more affordable housing into my apartment building that I'm developing, give me an incentive. Okay, no property taxes for 5 years, 3-month building permit. Cheaper water tap fees, whatever. Incentivize it, and they just have to. Their whole mentality has to be incentivizing, not penalizing. And right now, it's all penalizing.
Let's take a look at the city of Denver and how business is handled. But first, don't forget to subscribe and like our channel. Click on that little bell icon for notifications. Find the Devil's Advocate podcast on your favorite listening app. My friend Andrew Feinstein, who owns Trax and EXDO and all these incredible buildings. So just how bad is business in Denver right now?
It's good to see you too, John. Glad we're starting our first get-together in 2025 on such a positive note. You have to answer that question with some context. It's definitely, from a business environment standpoint, when you're in hospitality and real estate, I can't speak for the tech bros, but when you're in hospitality and real estate, it's definitely the toughest we've seen since pre-COVID, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I think I just read today Denver's lost, or the state of Colorado's lost 200 restaurants over the last couple of years. 82% of those are from Denver. Restaurant licenses are down by 25% year on year, 23 to 24 in the city of Denver. So we're a nightclub, but we are cousins of restaurants. We're in that hospitality bucket.
And you've got a great bar. It's just a great facility if people haven't been to EXDO.
And we have terrific people, and we're busy. We're actually busy.
Let me ask you a couple things. Let's throw it this way. Let's talk property taxes. Has that been a challenge for you?
Oh, we talked about this on the last time I was with you.
I just want you to redo this one because it's so
fine.
incredible.
It's a huge challenge. We did work with the governor over the summer to pass some meaningful relief, but you won't see it until your next tax bill because it goes into effect the next time that they assess properties. But it's basically business is challenging for a combination of a couple of factors. Property taxes is one of them.
So I was trying to lead you into this little factoid about how much your taxes have gone up.
Well, our taxes have gone up. Well, now it's a 2-year-old story because they go up every 2 years.
But it's a great story.
No, they went up over 30% year on year. I can't go back in time and call every customer who came to Trax and say, excuse me, you were at Trax on March 6th. 2023. Can I charge you 30% more for your beer? So it's a huge problem. Property taxes, as I said last time, property taxes is the meteor and commercial real estate are the dinosaurs. And it's the meteor that's coming to kill the dinosaurs, okay? This spike in property taxes because someone has to pay it. Either you as the property owner pay it, the tenant pays it. If you're a somewhat magnanimous property owner, as I think we are, you share that burden with your tenant. You don't just impose it on your tenant, but a lot of people do.
But neither one of you can last for long when it's going this way. I mean, the idea that maybe you're making the same amount of money as you did year after year, but the costs and the regulations and the minimum wage and the homeless and the crime and
it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Right.
That's why you're seeing. Okay, so back to my opening statement, my preamble. The reason we've seen so many restaurants close up shop and say we're not doing this anymore, and in the Rhino Art District, the neighborhood that I chaired for many, many years, that I helped form the business improvement district for, we are seeing, independent mom and pop, if you will, tenants leaving left and right. I mean, and we're even seeing national tenants closing shop. We just found out yesterday that Molson Coors, which owns the Blue Moon Brewery in Rhino, are not going to renew their lease. I mean, that's a huge blow to Rhino. But we had Budweiser in Rhino. I forget the name of the bar, but they owned a bar restaurant. They closed about a year and a half ago. Osaka Ramen, a terrific ramen shop in Rhino, just shut down. So, I think we need to have a balanced discussion with this, and I'm going to tell you why I say that. This gets broadcasted all over the world. And I think we have to be a little careful.
It's translated into 20 languages.
I think we have to be a little careful when we need to be honest about what's happening in Denver. And I think we need to talk optimistically about how we can fix it, because we also have to sell Denver. Because if we don't sell Denver, if we tell the whole world watching this show how miserable it is to do business in Denver, and it is tough right now, then nobody's going to come and do business in Denver. So we have to change this paradigm.
But the difference
and we have to change
is
it quickly. Does that?
The difference between you and a politician is the politician just lies and says, "Oh no, it's great, it's this." I loved it when Mike Johnson was giving a press conference on how safe the streets were, and he got attacked by a guy walking by.
The irony.
It just the truthfulness of it. Let me ask you specifically things like, how's the minimum wage affecting you in Denver, where it's $19 an hour and could go up? The mayor wants to charge a 20% fee to your customers to help you keep your business open. I don't know what business school he went to, but that doesn't seem to be a helpful idea.
Well, the 20%, let's just talk about minimum wage in general. So first of all, I don't believe in minimum wage. I believe that there's a wage that the employee is willing to work for and the employer is willing to pay, and where those two things meet, that should be the wage. I don't think the government should be sticking its nose in the private market, because when it does, it distorts the market, as you know very well. And here's the output. The output is hundreds of restaurants are closing their doors. That's what happens when the government sticks their nose in the market.
Let me add this. For me, yes, what you said, plus, I believe it is a hateful thing when government keeps two willing people apart.
I agree.
Whether it's a ban on gay relationships or gay marriage, or something that says, no, you can't hire this guy and I want that job. Not everybody takes a job because of the money. Some people take it because they want to learn the business, or they're passionate about the mission, or it's next door, or a million reasons. And for folks like my son, who just need to socialize. He's a handicapped son, and being with people brings him joy. But you can't afford it.
By the way, your son's terrific.
Oh, thanks,
I've had the pleasure of meeting him. He's awesome, and you should be very proud of your son. And I know you are. He's awesome. He's a great kid.
He's a frat brother I never had.
And that's okay. He's a great kid. He's awesome. Minimum wage, I have such conflicting opinions on this. So, on the one hand, I don't agree that there should be one. I just don't. I know where you're leading me down the path of what's it done to your business. I mean, it's the number one.
Or businesses in Denver.
It's the number one. Combined, I would say combined with property taxes and combined with the cost of securitizing your business, which we should talk about. If you're in the hospitality business, minimum wage is the number one killer of those maladies that are affecting our businesses. On the one hand, on the other hand, even at $20 an hour, you can't afford to live in the city and county of Denver unless you've got a couple roommates or something like that. So I'm not here to say that people who work all day and all night shouldn't be making $20 an hour. Again, that should be between them and their employer. But it's certainly exacerbating the cost. And what it's going to do is it's already doing it. Businesses are going to close down. Businesses are going to automate. Businesses aren't going to open in Colorado. I mean, they pulled this in California with fast food workers and increasing minimum wage. Well, now you walk into any fast food restaurant in California and there's a computer screen that you click on instead of a person serving you who could use all of that socialization, pocket change, whatever. And
you also have the Family Leave Act now, which is nearly 1% payroll tax, which will soon get bumped up to 1.2%. And it is another cut and another cut. Let me go at it at a different direction. You are a remarkably positive guy. You're an entrepreneur. You always see, opportunities where other people don't. If you could wave magic wands, if you were the mayor but had king-like powers, what changes would you make?
And which pick your topic?
To help revitalize Denver.
Okay.
To make Denver a place where people want to come and hang out and live and spend money and socialize, to be like we used to be.
Okay, well, first things first, clean and safe, okay? And I believe statistically, Denver's gotten a little safer over the last couple of years, but we don't feel that way when we go downtown.
Nope.
When we go downtown, we see a lot of rubbish on the side of the road. We see a lot of construction everywhere. We see cones everywhere. We still see, even though the tent cities have been removed, there's still a lot of fentanyl addiction present on our streets.
And bicycle little ballards for bike lanes everywhere.
So it's
unwelcoming.
It's unwelcoming. It's a disruptive experience going to downtown Denver right now.
It's a great way to put it.
It's a disruptive experience. It's just not a smooth experience, okay? And what happens is unless you really have to go to a show or you really have to go to a game, people aren't going downtown just to go downtown, which is really a tragedy because just a few years ago, pre-COVID, downtown was unbelievable. And those of us that are Rhino stakeholders, Rhino Art District stakeholders, we were the beneficiaries of that because downtown Denver was getting so hot, if you will. We were the attraction next door. So anyway,
where people could actually live and work.
Okay, so
and
so what would I do if I could wave my magic wand? Well, the first thing, again, clean and safe. Easier said than done. You have to physically clean downtown. Physically clean downtown. And that requires a Herculean effort, okay? And that could be everything from removing rubbish to power washing walls. I'm being dead serious.
Yeah.
Power washing sidewalks. It just doesn't look like, I was just in Phoenix, Arizona on a trip. It's clean. Like Phoenix is clean. Now they have the benefit of they don't have snow that comes with, some weather challenges and such, but it's clean. It's just very clean. First thing is clean and safe because perception is reality. You have to just make it feel clean. Okay, number two, I would put police officers on every corner. That tragedy of the 16th Street Mall where that flight attendant was stabbed to death, and she was just here for a day or two. What a heartbreaking story. One has to at least consider if there was a police officer on every corner, do those things happen? There has to be optics of safety, security, and cleanliness so that you just don't mess with this anymore. I don't know what Rudy Giuliani did in Times Square in 1994. I would just take that playbook, I would dust it off, and I'd bring it here.
What he did was he went after the lowest level offenders first.
Yeah.
He wanted a quick win, so he went after the squeegee guys.
Yeah, he went for squeegee guys.
And you know what? 90% of them had outstanding warrants.
Sure.
And it got...
I'll tell you a quick story, and then we'll get back to what I would do. So my father's here in the audience today, and my father...
By the way, we always have a live studio audience of about 500. If only we did something worth reacting to, you'd hear them.
One thing my father and his business partner, who started our Tracks Nightclub, taught me years ago, and this is the nightclub business.
Yeah.
If you have a tear in the booth of your nightclub, one tear, you repair that tear right away. Because if you don't, one tear leads to two tears lead to three tears, and your customers start disrespecting your place. And as soon as your customers disrespect your place, that's when it goes to hell, and that's when you start losing money.
It's known as the broken window theory of
I was getting there.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to have that mentality, and it's tough because I think most of our city leadership, and I mean this as a compliment, are genuinely nice human beings. But
Agreed.
to be the mayor, you asked me about waving my magic wand, you have to be willing to be, I don't know if I can curse on this channel.
Yeah, go for it.
You have to be willing to be an a-hole, okay? And you have to be willing to be meaner and tougher than just about everybody else, unfortunately. Because you have to have a mentality that I am not going to capitulate to the 5,000 people that are vagrants who disrespect this place. I'm going to stand up for the 750,000 good citizens, tax-paying citizens, and our visitors who play by the rules. That's who I'm going to stand up for. I'm not going to stand up for these 5,000. So a couple things. So clean and safe, physically clean. On the safe side, I would make Denver unwelcoming to anyone who even thinks about panhandling, begging, vagrancy, things like that. I don't know how exactly that works in the city charter. I would up the penalties. I'd make them onerous. I I would just make it doesn't cost anything.
A lot of it is just enforcing the current laws we have.
Yes, and I was going to say that doesn't cost anything. That doesn't cost anything. And I know it sounds a little inhumane and a little cruel, but I just think that we have to have a mentality of, if you think it's okay to be a vagrant here, if you think it's okay to disrespect this place, you're just not welcome. Just go to Portland, okay? Go to San Francisco, okay? They're a bus ride away. You're just not welcome here. And until the city and the state get together and get serious about, like they do in Massachusetts, where the state of Massachusetts works with the city of Boston, until they get serious about a long-term strategy for long-term care for people that are struggling with mental disabilities and drug addiction, until they get serious about that, then we have to go for a lower hanging fruit, broken windows type policy. You asked me about my magic wand.
Right.
That's
Keep going.
what I would
Give me one more.
Give you one more. Okay, we need bodies, okay? So back to my,
I know, I'm a very lonely man.
So I talk about Rhino a lot. So when we got Trax and RealWorks, our event center, going in Rhino, okay, now this is 22 years ago. I'm not sure Rhino was Rhino yet. They called it Upper Larimer at the time. It was post-apocalyptic, okay? We couldn't get anybody to show up, okay? And we had nightclub events and we had parties and we had to beg people to come. And one of the number one complaints was, I don't feel safe. And we had a lot of break-ins. We had a lot of break-ins of cars of our customers. So not only could we barely get them to show up, but when they show up, their car was broken into, and it just affirmed their fears.
And that's how you made extra money, right?
Exactly. That was my side hustle. So here's what we did. This is back to my police officer example. We bought an old Crown Victoria car. We stuck an EXDO police badge on the side of it. We bought a siren, and we drove it around the block every night, all night. Well, guess what happened to our car break-ins? They went from many to zero. We had our own private security guys escort customers to their cars as well. And it's optics. And guess what? The bad guys didn't mess with us anymore. We didn't have break-ins anymore.
Also, what you're doing is you're putting the focus on the people who bring in the wealth, your customer.
Right.
These are the people who are trading their dollars for your drinks and time at your place. And you're saying, hey, what's best for you? And the best for you is to get to your car
back
safely.
to bodies.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was getting to that. So RealWorks and Trax was like a heartbeat, giving a dead patient a semblance of life in this corner of Denver that was desolate. Okay, and because we hung in there, bodies. We started getting a couple hundred people a night, then a couple thousand people a night. And then there were other bars next door. And then there were other residents next door. And we gave a corner of Denver a heartbeat. Downtown Denver needs that heartbeat. It needs those bodies back. How are we going to get them back? When you have 40% vacancy, if not higher, in your downtown office core, it's a huge problem. Because when those buildings are full, there's your vibrancy. That's the best security you can have are people in those buildings. Lunches, happy hours, breakfast. Let's go out for a drink after the happy hour. Let's go out for dinner. You know what, let's live downtown because I'm working downtown. We've lost that dynamic, right? That paradigm walked out the door with COVID. So we have to do whatever it takes to incentivize people to come back downtown. I think we're overthinking these office to residential conversions. You know, everyone's whining and crying about affordable housing. We have millions of square feet downtown Denver that are just sitting there vacant. Why do we have to have onerous building codes to convert those into residences? Why not build them into like modern day hipster boarding houses? You know, let people move in with air mattresses, kitchenettes, redo the bathrooms, move in. Who cares if the floor plates are too big? Who cares if the windows don't open? Who cares if the stairwells are wide enough or whatever the hell they complain about? Just move them in. Get bodies downtown. Get them in there, you know, and make it a vibrant, exciting place. Experiment, incentivize, don't penalize, you know. And I think if we can think about things that way, that's my magic wand at work. I got one more for you.
All right.
This is my craziest one ever. We got to build an urban gondola.
I'm listening. I'm skeptical already. I'm listening.
Denver doesn't have its thing, okay? St. Louis has its arch. Hollywood has its Hollywood sign. Seattle has its Space Needle. New York has a number of attractions, whether it's the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty. You know, San Antonio has the Alamo. San Francisco has the incredible cable car system. It's an attraction. We have no attraction. We don't have water, really. I mean, I know Denver got founded on the...
We've got Trax. Trax is the attraction.
But we need an attraction. So if we built like an urban gondola system, which would be an homage to our mountain and our ski culture, but also a clever and fun way to move people around in our downtown core. It would just bring people together. It just brings an attraction to activate Denver and give Denver kind of an iconic image among people.
The same way London has its eye.
Sure.
The
Well, London has a lot of
merry-go-round,
attractions. But yes, just like London's eye. We don't have our thing.
And gondolas to what? Go up and down buildings?
Urban gondola. No. Think about like an urban gondola going over the 16th Street Mall. Think about it connecting from Union Station to the National Western Campus. Think about it connecting to Spear Boulevard. Just 4 or 5 major transit nodes. It would be iconic. And it's not that expensive. I mean, the amount of money we're spending to self-storage fentanyl addicts, the hundreds of millions of dollars that we're spending could be so much better spent on.
So all this leads to my next question.
Activations and incentives. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it going to take to tempt you to run for mayor?
You have to call my beautiful wife. I'm not in charge of that decision. So.
All right. Well, I'd be willing to do that.
No, but and she says hi to you, by the way. She was thrilled to hear that I'm coming on today. No, I appreciate the compliment. It's easy to say these things in these chairs. It's really easy to say it. And I know the mayor very well. It's another thing to sit in that chair and make these decisions on a daily basis.
But the difference is, when you have somebody who's been in the real world, who has made these things happen, who comes from a family line of people who've made these things happen, who's seen it, that makes a difference. And I think we have a bureaucratic political class that is self-populating, and we need to break that. And no matter what you think of Trump one way or the other, he is an example of breaking that.
No question. He is an imperfect vessel, but he is the disruptor that the people wanted. And I know people in this city and this state don't want to hear that, but he's the disruptor that they wanted. And that's why he won. And I think that, I think you just have to be willing to say, you know what? You give me 4 years. I get 4 years. You don't have to vote for me again in 4 years, but you're giving me 4 years. And in 4 years, we're going to do it my way. And we're going to break some stuff. And we're going to disrupt some stuff. I think it'll get us further. And you know what? If it doesn't work, you can vote for somebody else in 4 years.
The thing that I think helped Trump win, that people don't want to talk about. We talked about inflation. We talked about a flood of illegal immigrants coming in, estimated 20 million of them. It's just unfathomable. But there was also this reaction to wokeness.
Yeah.
This idea that, wait a second, you're going to tell me the words I have to use? And if I use the wrong words or misgender somebody who's obviously a guy, and I'm not willing to call him a girl, then I'm going to get canceled, lose my job, get kicked out of school. There was a quiet frustration with that grew. Once he won, it has been interesting to see how people are willing to talk about it much more openly. And you see the DEI world starting to react to that or collapse because of it. Do you read the same thing? I'm just curious.
Do I agree? That's
or
why.
Do you read it that way? I mean, as a guy who's in, your clientele has been, Trax has been an oasis for people who are different and who were picked on and outcasts for so long. I mean, it was what Stonewall was. It was a safe place to people could be themselves.
So Stonewall is at the tail end of the 1960s. Trax opens up basically 10 years later, 1980. By the way, this will be our 45th anniversary this year of celebrating Trax's existence in Denver, which I'm really proud of. We are an oasis. Our mantra as a company is be you. And I mean that literally. Be you. Like, do whatever you want. Be whoever you want to be.
Which, by the way, growing up in Colorado was the Colorado character.
Correct.
You do you.
You do you. And I would argue we've been at the forefront of what ultimately morphed into woke. We had transgender bathrooms before they were mandated by Gavin Newsom. Okay, like we had them in the 80s. Use whatever bathroom you want. It's fine, whatever. And so I certainly can relate to. Hey, look, when you're in this business, when you're in the LGBTQ nightclub business, I know what it's like to work with folks who literally couldn't get hired somewhere else because of how they looked, because they chose to transition, because they chose to wear something that other people believe because your gender is this, you shouldn't be wearing that. And that to me is supremely offensive. And we've always been a place that welcomes everybody, welcomes the stranger, if you will. And I'm proud of that, and I will fight for that, and I'll defend that to the day I die. I mean, I remember when I first moved back. I'm from here, but when I first moved back here 15 years ago, I stood on the steps of the Colorado Capitol as a business owner, advocating for marriage equality. Which is, and by the way, you deserve a lot of credit. You've always been consistent. I wish some of your friends on the right were as consistent as you on that issue. But yeah, like a lot of pendulums, it went way too far. It went from ensuring that people have equal rights under the law to then almost the pendulum shifting on that is they almost, I shouldn't say they, some people got rights over other people not getting rights. It's almost like became reverse equality in a sense, right? With mandates and language mandates and academic mandates and things like that.
It became bullying.
Yeah, it became,
the people who were bullied, that movement spawned bullying, and people couldn't speak their minds. People couldn't be you.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we're on the same page on this. Yeah. I do tend to be somewhat of a free speech absolutist.
I am too.
You can't kind of have it both ways, unfortunately. And but anyway, all that being said, Trax is I love that word oasis. It's an oasis to be yourself. You do
Just
you.
out of curiosity, there was a time, go back 20, 30, 40 years, you needed places that were those safe spots. And now, since the world has changed, since we have equality, since you can be gay, you can be trans, you can live your life, has that affected the business model? Is Trax still as popular as it was, or is it? I've seen other gay nightclubs close down. Has the mission overtaken the business? And now, Trax is nice, but I can go to any bar now as a gay man.
Yeah, and you can, and you should, right? Yeah. I would be dishonest if I said that wasn't an existential dynamic that we've been dealing with for a long time. I mean, when I was a young man...
So what we need is some homophobia to help the business.
Yeah, bring it on, right? Yeah, let's bring on anti-Semitism and racism alongside it. So there's a lot of dynamics at play. It's not just that, but I will touch on that first. So in the 1980s, if you were a gay person or a trans person, you were probably in the closet during the day, and then we were your escape valve at night. And it wouldn't be uncommon for us to have the same customer walk through our doors 3 to 5 times a week, okay? And we were open 5 nights a week. Now we're open 3 nights a week. This is on the Trax side, and I'll talk to you how we've diversified. Now we're open 3 nights a week, and yes, we have some regular customers who come once a week, but not as many as we used to. Now, Denver has grown in population, and so the influx of newcomers, although we've done a great job of dissuading newcomers, but we can get to that in this conversation as well, has kind of balanced it out. So whoever we've lost, because, as you just said, you can be yourself anywhere, it's kind of on balance been a push with who we've brought in, okay? However, RealWorks, which you've been to, you've come to see me, you've been to events.
We've had events at RealWorks.
RealWorks was originally built to be Trax.
Really?
And that room is...
I didn't know that.
That room is twice the size of Trax. And there's simply no market demand for an LGBTQ nightclub of that size.
Because RealWorks is one of the weirdest, coolest spaces
I appreciate that.
In Denver. It just has this great vibe, and you can use it for so many different things.
So that's why we've diversified. Again, business has to be flexible and nimble. They haven't hit me with tariffs yet, but we'll see what else is coming. So RealWorks, we diversified, and that's why we did private events. That's why we do DJ shows. That's why we work with other promoters and third-party events, and we host things with you guys. We do political stuff. We had Kamala Harris in our building last year, and we had Cory Gardner in our building the year before that. So we're welcoming of everyone. And unless you're a Klansman, no Klansman.
Oh, hell. I was going to do something there, but now I won't.
No Klansman. But we're welcoming of everyone. And but we had to diversify because that the market demand for an LGBTQ only club of that size just doesn't exist in the market anymore. And by the way, may not be good for Andrew Feinstein, the business person. It's a great thing for society. It's a great thing for society.
To that.
But we have a bigger threat, which I'll get to next, but go ahead.
To that,
yeah.
I get a sense, Colorado, we keep looking at Colorado through this left-right polarized world. And right now, progressives, hardcore progressives, democratic socialists, they've got the power right now, and they're doing, I think, terrible things. But I get a sense that Colorado character I grew up with in the 70s, that been around for 5 generations, that UBU thing, I think people in Colorado still instinctively get it, even though they don't quite have words for it. And I truly believe that there is a third way for Colorado and Denver and the state. And it's not R and it's not D. It is something that is freedom and liberty oriented. So be you, do you. But also, that doesn't mean regulate us, censor us, tax us to death.
Oh, I agree with you. Hey, listen, I think, and I don't know who she or he is, okay? But I think if there was an independent out there with a big checkbook, like Governor Polis, who's a friend of both of ours, if Jared chose to be an independent, he'd win. He'd win. He'd win tomorrow. If he said, you know what, I'm not going to be a Democrat anymore, I'm going to run as an independent, he would win. So I think if you had a dynamic independent with a big bank account behind them.
Because sadly, it takes a big bank account.
But that's okay. That's how it goes. But if you had a big bank account behind you and you were an independent, I think you could win.
I think curious, what's your bank account?
Yeah, no comment. But I think if you had, because I do think that Colorado is a place where an independent, I mean, say what you want about our elected leadership, and we talked about this the last time we were together, and I know you're going to disagree with me, but Mike Johnston, Michael Bennett, John Hickenlooper, Jared Polis, Phil Weiser, these are actually, I know you and I know these guys. I know them personally. I've known these guys for a long time. They're actually moderate guys. They really are. They are moderate guys. They are
in a socialist world, they are moderate.
They are not. No, but these are not the second coming of Elizabeth Epps and Candy Citabacca. I mean, they are. But they are not moderate guys.
They are not the Roy Romers, Dick Lambs.
No, but I'm saying is in here, they are.
I don't care what they are in here.
They're being tugged over here.
I care about what they do. And what they do is not moderate.
Hey, and we keep score. Okay, so in business, we keep score in green. Okay, we keep score on the P&L. That's how we keep score. Profit and loss. That's how we keep score. From a state standpoint and a city standpoint, I think it's the same thing. You know, did your tax rolls go up? Not because you overtaxed us, but because you brought in more population, because you brought in more business. Did our business friendliness go up on your watch? Did crime and safety go down on your watch? That's how we keep score, you know? And I would focus on that more than what your party affiliation is. I think that's how we need to keep score.
Well, the score's going down.
Yeah.
And it's going down.
I'm worried about it. Yeah, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm on the devil's advocate. Yeah. I'm advocating for a more robust,
I think
an incentivizing friendly business environment in the state.
Denver and Colorado is growing hungry for something different. Now, that something different isn't going to be Trump.
Why are you talking to me? Why aren't you running for something? You know?
I'm playing over here. It's looking for something different. And it's more than just one person.
Yeah.
It's going to be a movement. It has to be a movement, and it has to be a movement that rejects. I hate the term extremes of both sides, because both sides on the extremes have some really good points, and I agree with, and we should accept them. But there needs to be something that's willing to disrupt the current system. It's not going to look like Trump, but it's going to act kind of like Trump.
I just said it. I agree with you. I think if there was an independent, I'll repeat what I just said. If there's an independent and she or he has a big checkbook, I think you could win a big race.
It's more than that. It's going to be on city councils throughout. It's going to be on boards and commissions. It's going to be in neighborhoods. It's going to have to be something different. And more importantly, there needs to be a goal. There needs to be the marriage equality movement, the gay movement. There was a goal.
Yeah.
There was a finish line. They crossed the finish line. This is what we want.
Do you know how we got that done? I shouldn't say we. I had this much to do with it. That got done because the folks at One Colorado, who really did an amazing job. Shout out to my friend Brad Clark, who led that charge. Brad came from rural America, okay? And he knew how rural America thinks, okay? And we were able to connect with Republican legislators who had a gay relative, had a gay family member who were on their way out. They were in their house money term. And we flipped enough of them to get that to go legal, okay? To get that to become legal, which, what a shame it took us so long, but we got it done. But it was, to your point, it was a goal. It was a strategy.
But it was a shared goal.
Yeah.
And I think what Denver misses is that shared goal. I think what the state misses is that shared goal. And that goal right now is like, let the elites run things. And that's just not gonna last that long.
No, I hear you. Hey, look, so again, 5th generation Coloradan. I know we're technically purple. We're really not.
No, we're hardcore
the only
blue.
reason we have so many independents is because, sorry, independents, but a lot of you are just too lazy to check your affiliation when you register to vote here. But the polling shows that most of them are basically Democrats disguised as independents. Okay.
A lot of them are rejecting. I'm unaffiliated now as well. I was a lifelong
welcome to the
Republican.
club. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah,
I was a Democrat and I switched to unaffiliated.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so we want something. All right, let's start to wrap it up. We see what Denver needs. The question is from here to there. What do businesses need to do? You're a business leader. You work with other business owners. You work on Colorado Concern. You've been on many boards. Why is it that everybody seems so siloed, that all these industries are taking it on the chin, but the industries haven't really come together in a way that says enough?
So,
first of all, is that do I have that wrong?
Yeah, you do. I'm going to respectfully disagree a little bit. Colorado Concern under our new CEO leadership, Dave Davia, is doing a great job. JJ Alman at the chamber, these are two personal friends of mine. They're doing a much better job, in my opinion, of bringing together the wider business community to tackle these issues, because we are all aligned. Like we've got to fight with the Hotel Lodgers Association and not against, with the Restaurant Association on things like the tipped wage credit and things of that nature. We've all got to work together on this labor peace. It's not labor peace, it's labber war.
Yeah, it's labor war. We've had the peace for 80 years.
We've had peace for 80 years. It's labor war. Like, why are you guys messing with something that's like, you want our business friendliness to plummet into the 40s? From the low teens, or the high teens?
You think about what
are you doing?
Any business looks at, whether moving. First is, do they have right to work or something like it?
Right.
What's a tax policy?
Right.
Is it a progressive income tax? We're not there. What's the crime? What's the cost of housing? What's the infrastructure? Do they have roads? And all these things, Colorado is failing.
Look at Palantir, run by Alex Karp, right? Look at Palantir. It was a Silicon Valley company relocated to Colorado because California, even though they have better weather than we do, became so unappetizing, they moved to Colorado. Where's the next Palantir coming from if we pass this? This labor war thing is really at the peak of stupidity coming from the left side of the aisle. But anyway, I think you asked me a question of what we can do. First of all, when you're a business owner, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a developer, you are inherently optimistic. So we have to stay optimistic. I said this earlier, we have to sell Denver. We can't just bemoan Denver all the time. We have to sell Denver. We just have to somehow elect and subsequently persuade our elected leadership to start thinking about incentives and not penalties. Okay, I'll give you a great example. Energize Denver, which means you're going to de-energize Denver. Okay, whenever they say something in their title, just assume it's the opposite. Okay, so what is Energize Denver? Well, Energize Denver, the intention is we have to make sure our buildings are more energy efficient, so that Denver can have its impact on the global carbon problem, right?
By a fraction of a fraction of a fraction.
But you just talked about property taxes. If you add the cost of retrofitting buildings in Denver to an already burdensome regulatory environment, you will literally make Denver unaffordable. But I understand the intention. So why not just incentivize people who choose to make their buildings more energy efficient? Deduct their property taxes. Give them a property tax abatement. Incentivize it, but don't penalize it. That's the way they have to start thinking. If I'm willing to put more affordable housing into my apartment building that I'm developing, give me an incentive, okay? No property taxes for 5 years, 3-month building permit, cheaper water tap fees, whatever, incentivize it. And they just have to, their whole mentality has to be incentivizing, not penalizing. And right now it's all penalizing.
How do you get Denver businesses to sing from the same choir sheet?
How do we get Denver businesses to sing for the, well, again, I think.
Because businesses, when you're
Yeah.
fighting for your livelihood,
Yeah.
the last thing you have time for is going, hey, let's talk about a long-term plan. No, it's like, I got to make payroll in a week.
No, it's a great point. Again, I do think that I think the business organizations, whether they're the Downtown Denver Partnership, the Chamber, Color Concern, which is focusing a lot more on Denver these days, I think we are aligned. I think we are singing from the same sheet. We really are. I mean, we are basically, when this 20% thing came out, I saw in the Gazette, Jay Jommet was quoted right away. I don't think making restaurants more expensive is a pathway to solving our affordability crisis. I mean, so I do think we're singing from the same sheet. I think we are very concerned about the same basic principles: overregulation, too expensive, too long to get our doors open, and our elected officials are hearing it. And I think that the onus is upon them to implement it and just do it quicker.
Do you think, last question, do you think it needs to get worse before it gets better?
You took the words out of my mouth. I'm worried that it does. Because here's the problem. There's been no consequences. You know what I mean?
Say more about that.
No, incumbents don't lose their seats. There's no consequences. Right? The only time there was a consequence was, and I hate to pick on her because I actually think she's a nice person and I know her personally, but I think Candy Cedabaka is the only elected official I can think about where the consequences of what she was advocating for were so detrimental to business that we ousted her. You know what I mean? Like, we literally, to your point about a goal, we worked together, we got behind the right candidate, we put together a cohesive campaign.
Denver City Council is one of the most anti-business, anti-liberty governments there is.
I'm not disputing that, but my point is that she was an exception.
Yeah.
Incumbents rarely lose, from all strata in this state. When was the last time a sitting governor lost? When was the last time a sitting mayor lost? Right? When was the last time? I mean, it's just, that's my point is, I think it has to get worse.
And for that to happen, does the city need to denigrate even more?
That's what I'm saying. I'm worried that's because otherwise there's no penalty for bad behavior. It's just like the vagrants themselves. Welcome to Denver. Be a vagrant. You get a free motel room for 6 months. There's no penalty.
And people come and bring you food.
Yeah, right. And you get free food on top of it. There's no penalty for bad behavior. And until look, I own a business, right? If I behave badly, whether that's immorally bad, legally bad,
treating your employees poorly,
business
polluting,
incompetence, I'm done. I go out of business. I'm not putting food on the table for my family. I'm not making house payments. I'm in big trouble, right? There's just no downside. There's no downside. As long as we keep, so at the end of the day, it's kind of like back to the Trump thing. Like, people can complain about Trump all they want. We voted for him. You or I may or may not have voted for him, but we voted for him. So you can only complain so much. And it may have to denigrate more to change that paradigm.
At what point does
by the way, I actually hope not. But
yeah, I agree with you, and I see it the same way. At some point on that curve, either we turn into Detroit, Cincinnati, and just becomes a kind of a burnt out, it never comes back, or we hit that point where the bargains are here. As a developer, you know what I'm talking about. That, man, I'm buying low right now because I know the bounce is coming. I don't feel like I know the bounce is coming back. And therefore, I think a lot of investors feel the same way.
Hey, so we, one of our facets of our business is we own property that in theory could be developed on at some point. Yeah. We've developed some of it. A lot of it's sitting you'll have to come get a tour at some point. A lot of it's just sitting there collecting dust, literally. I'm your canary in the coal.
Empty buildings.
I'm your canary in the coal mine. My phone's not ringing. I'm talking about your bounce. Yeah. My phone's not ringing. When my phone's ringing, that means I'll give you another a canary in the coal mine anecdote. Come to Rhino. Come on a Rhino tour right now. There's no cranes in the air. 3 years ago, there were 12 cranes in the air. There's no cranes in the air. Zero. No cranes. And that means no one's building anything. So if my phone's not ringing and there's no cranes in the air, that means no one's doing anything. So that means we're heading towards what could be a bargain. And then we'll get a bounce. Let's end this on a twinge of optimism. There's only one Denver. There's only one Denver. Our airport, and we should thank our elected leaders from years past for having the vision to build that airport. And I think Mayor Hancock, who's a very good friend of mine, really amplified that airport by connecting it to more ports around the world. Our airport is one of the greatest economic engines of any city in the United States. We are the only major destination for 1,500 miles in every direction. Our airport is such an incredible economic gift to our state that there's only one Denver. And so we should take advantage of that, combined with our access to recreation, the mountains, et cetera, and our independent way of life and thinking and pioneering spirit. You put that stew together and it may be a bargain, but there should be a bounce.
When?
When? I will tell you when. So we've been in a commercial real estate recession for 5 years. People can say whatever they want. We've been in one for 5 years. I know it because my phone has not rung for 5 years. It's going to take us another 5 years to climb out of this.
Andrew?
Yeah.
I appreciate it. This has been great.
All good.
All right.
Always good to see you.
So when you announce,
when I announce, we can do it here. We can host it in front of the audience.
I tell you what, if you ever run for mayor, I'll do you a favor. I'll endorse your opponent.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that very much. It's great to see you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.